Hey guys, in today's video I'm going to explain to you some harmful subliminal messages that are found in the movie Luca on Disney Plus. Now I watched this last night with my family for the first time, and I'm presenting it from the perspective of a very conservative Christian father. Before I get into the bad, I want to say, there are some things that I love about Luca. For example, the graphics and the lighting and the color and the artwork and some of the storytelling is very, very beautiful. The first subliminal message that really bothers me, and it's not even subliminal, but just like I've noticed in some Disney movies recently that they are showing acceptance and normalization of dishonesty, of lying, especially lying to your parents. That bothers me to have my children watching a video where they're showing the protagonist as a liar, where anytime it's inconvenient to tell the truth, they lie. And if they get away with it, that's a good thing. And from my perspective, that's definitely not a good thing. I think there's two times in the movie when Luca, 2 or 3 times when he lies to his parents. And there's a lot of times when he runs away from his parents and avoids them. So anyway, that's one negative message that you'll see in the movie. Now, another theme that you see in Luca is this idea of his parents and the older people in his community being very mean, controlling, and just kind of uneducated. I'm sure people have had mean parents who are controlling and uneducated, and are kind of oblivious to certain truths about life and science. I think that is a harmful subliminal message to teach children that their parents are mean, controlling, and uneducated. And that's definitely not the case in a lot of instances. I know that as a parent, I try not to be mean or controlling, and I try to be educated, and I say things that I know, and I don't say things that I don't know. So I think that's a dangerous message. Luca also has a very anti-religious feeling, undertone of the movie. If you've seen Smallfoot, there's a very anti-religious where it kind of paints this idea of the religious people making up a myth just to keep the people under their control. And now, while that might be the case in some religions, I can tell you I 100% believe that is not the case in my faith, believing in God and his son Jesus Christ. And so it bothers me when they present people who are kind of religious and traditional and have traditional values as being mean, as being crazy, as being closed-minded. And you see that the kind of portrayal of the parents and the uncle that comes to visit. The uncle, I don't know what they're thinking, but, they kind of seem to portray him as kind of this wise elder. He's the uncle of the family, and they brought him in to show the child the light. He's trying to escape from his community and have his mind open to the bigger, broader, better world. And, the uncle comes in and he's acting kind of like what you might expect an experienced religious leader would be, coming in to help a wayward youth or something. But they make him look so creepy and crazy and dark. And and he wants to drag him down to the deepest abyss where there's just darkness and no light. And so there's lots of symbolism. I just feel like it's a little twisted and wrong. I think another harmful subliminal message of Luca is the idea that the wrongdoers are the ones who are truly enlightened. The rule breakers are the ones that have the most freedom and happiness. And that's just not the case. I mean, from my experience, that is not the case. There are people in my life who are rule followers in the traditional sense, traditional values, and those are the ones with families intact. Those are the ones with a lot of love, peace, purpose in their life. I know people who are rule breakers, where they're disobedient, where they run away from home, where they break commandments or break laws or get into drugs or immorality, and they suffer from addiction that takes over their life. They have an obsession about their self and seeking pleasure that's harmful, not only for themselves, but for those around them. And it just overall is very negative and degrading. And I feel like in a lot of Disney movies, not just Disney, but a lot of movies in our day, there's a lot of messages about self-exploration and doing anything in the name of finding your truth, your happiness, your pleasure, and that this idea that right and wrong is relative, that there's moral relativism, that lying's wrong in some instances, but it's right in some instances, and that's just not true. There is right and there is wrong. Stealing is wrong, killing is wrong, lying is wrong. There's so many good messages that Disney teaches through its videos, and I feel like they teach the message of acceptance and self-exploration and pursuing happiness, but kind of to a fault. For example, they'll teach diversity and acceptance a ton, but they'll teach it to the point of accepting evil. Like the idea that you can do whatever you want, whatever feels right to you, whatever feels good, doesn't matter. It's all relative. As long as it feels good to you, you're okay. So and that's just not true. It's been revealed to us that those things are not good. And we've been given our conscience, so we kind of know as a child that those things aren't good. Speaking of conscience, another harmful subliminal message. Well, it goes both ways, but there's a part in the video where Luca's with his friend who's saying, he's afraid to go off of a cliff on a bike, off a jump, off a cliff into the water. And his friend's just saying, you're listening to a voice in your head. It's a Bruno. You just need to tell your little Bruno in your head, Silencio, Bruno, Silencio, Bruno, like silence. You need to silence that voice in your head. While there are voices in our head that are negative, that hold us back from achieving our potential, that make us fear things that are good, there are also good voices in our head that we should not silence and overrule. For example, the voice of the Holy Ghost. And to silence those and to go against them in dangerous circumstances is not the best idea. If you feel strongly you shouldn't go to an edge of a cliff, you listen to that voice. It's not worth it, right? I would agree with that scene if it wasn't the fact that they were jumping off a cliff where there was a rock that they almost died on. There are voices that you should quiet in your head, but I would have felt better about that scene if they were doing it prior to publicly speaking, or doing something that took courage, not something that was just a crazy dare that's just not intelligent to do, that's risking life and limb for a thrill. Now, I understand when you are making a movie, you want to create conflict, to create something interesting, an interesting storyline where you've got a good guy and a bad guy. But by the same token, I've got little kids, and I have seen that they model behavior they see. And even if it's the bad guy doing the bad behavior, they often model it. And so, people calling each other stupid, they actually had the protagonist say that. It was kind of an accident. They did it a little bit innocently, but, saying a bad word in Spanish and then getting smacked over the head by a purse. Our kids pick up on that stuff. What goes inside their head comes back out, and it usually comes out multiple times. At the most unexpected times, they'll start saying what they heard in the movie and doing what they saw in the movie. The bully punching someone in the face, or, pushing someone on the ground, or trying to kill someone. I understand that makes the plot more exciting, but I do think there's got to be a way to make an interesting video, movie, without modeling bad behavior. I mean, I've seen a few Disney Junior videos that do a great job. They have exciting plot lines that don't involve people modeling bad behavior. Where instead of having conflict relationally with a good guy and a bad guy, they have it with their situation that they're in. If you think I'm a little crazy by saying that the film has an anti-religious feel, and I think it's pretty obvious for any adult who watches the film that it seems kind of anti-religious, painting the traditional parental, rule-based, traditional religious parent as being very closed-minded, being very controlling, and even lying to their children because they think they're doing the right thing for them. There's something that I thought was just interesting. There's a scene towards the end of the movie where they're going on a race, and as part of the race, they eat a bowl of pasta, and then they put the pasta strainer bowl on their head as a helmet, and then they race off with that, and that's what protects their head, right? Their helmet is the pasta bowl. And I just think it's interesting because there is a movement, like a church called the Church of like the Flying Spaghetti Monster or something like that. And the adherents of this faith are called Pastafarians, where they're basically mocking religion. They figure, well, if people can, worship God, then why can't I worship, my pasta, flying monsters, spaghetti, or, whatever. I can worship whatever I want to and make fun of them. And so it seems to be a movement that's by people who are atheists, who are kind of trying to mock religion. And I just think it's interesting that this film that already had a very anti-religious sentiment to it had one of its final scenes where they put on a pasta bowl on their head, because Pastafarians, what they do for their driver's license picture, some of them, they'll take a pasta strainer bowl, a metal pasta strainer bowl, and they'll wear it as a helmet or as a hat. And so I don't know if the people who wrote the film did that on purpose. I do think it is something that does seem to support my overall feeling and belief that a lot of Disney movies are trying to send the overall message to children that, what you've been taught growing up by your children and by religious leaders is false, that you should go and explore and do what feels right to you because you know what's best, and they don't know anything. They've just been lying because they've been afraid and they've been uneducated. And I'm sure there's some truth to some of those stereotypes. Stereotypes are usually based in some degree of truth based on experience, but from my experience, that has not been the case. Like, living the gospel of Jesus Christ has brought me so much happiness, peace, fulfillment, purpose in my life. And it's not based in fairy tale fiction. It's based on me doing A/B tests in my life, doing spiritual hard work, praying, exercising faith, seeing miracles that cannot be explained by our natural understanding, and having God communicate to me in various ways, not just through my feelings, but through much more impactful and visual ways. And so I don't want to be disagreeable with people, but I do think that there's some good messages in Luca, and there's also some dangerous subliminal messages. It's not just a Luca thing, though. This is more indicative of our society and where it's at, and I feel like mass media reflects the values of our society. And while some people in our society feel like everyone's waking up to a new enlightenment, I personally feel like in society things are not leading towards enlightenment. Like, there's a lot of wickedness, a lot of evil, a lot of focus on selfishness and on personal gain, and not so much on sacrifice, love, kindness, devotion, service. And I'd like to see more of that kind of messaging in the movies. I'd like to see less of this kind of new world of, personal self-pleasure, self-enlightenment, all about the self. I'd like to see it more focused on turning outward, because I feel like that's where you really discover yourself. Like Jesus said, if any man will, lose his life for my sake, he shall find it. If any man will seek to save his life or whatever, he'll lose it. And I feel like that's kind of figurative for finding peace and purpose in life. If anyone who worked on the Luca film, I hope you don't feel like I am trashing your film. Overall, I actually really enjoyed it. And I think if you don't take in the messaging, it's a really enjoyable film. And it is very well crafted in a lot of ways. I just think there's some subliminal messages that I don't agree with. As a religious person, they don't seem accurate. Hats off to all of you who are trying to make good, uplifting children's videos. I'm super grateful for those who make good videos. And, while there might be a few negative messages in Luca, it's not nearly as bad in a lot of ways as a lot of the garbage that's out there. Like, look at all the PG-13 and R movies. Like, there's tons of really raunchy, like, clearly evil, bad stuff out there. So I'm grateful for all those who are trying their best to send messaging that they feel like is helpful for children. I just don't agree personally that all of the messages in Disney films are helpful for children. I feel like they're kind of going against traditional Christian beliefs and values in some ways. In other ways, they're totally supportive of them. But anyway, that's my 2 cents. I hope you enjoyed the movie. If you watch the movie, if you watch it with your children, it might not hurt to point out a few of those, messages, maybe correct some of them if you feel like they could be harmful for your kids. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a good day.